Hey everyone, I am here with Charles Santino talking about his new comic campaign, Rammur. You want to give your elevator pitch to the people?
Sure. This is maybe the shortest elevator pitch in entertainment. He's a master thief in a future police state. 7 words. There it is. And I believe it's the only one out there. I believe it's the only comic about a master thief in a future police state. Might be the only comic about a master thief. And there are a few stories about future police states, but this combines classic crime, caper, heist stories with a little bit of a science fiction and totalitarian element.
I got you. So would you say that he's like a neutral character?
Neutral in, you mean politically?
No, I mean like you know how they have like the hero, villain, neutral, anti-hero, anti-villain type
Yeah,
characters.
well, he's a bad guy in that he does bad things, but generally the people that the bad things are happening to are worse than him. So we're seeing
Yeah.
the stories from his perspective. And if he has to collaborate with you in any way, that's fine. Things will be fine. Cross him up, that could be a problem. But if you're useful to him, things will be just fine. But generally, the types of people that he's going to be involved with are criminals as well. Not always, but usually. And usually, the people that he's robbing are, he's not rolling the homeless in an alley. You know, these are big scores with people who are probably crony capitalists. So they're in bed with the state to begin with. So we don't really feel any sympathy for the people who are on the receiving end of Rammur's violence or theft.
I get you. And so I read it, of course, and it seemed like a series of short stories. If you were going to continue this, would it be more short stories, or would it have an overarching plot? Or
Yeah, the first issue has a 24-page self-contained story, a backup story about Rammur, 6 pages, and then other shorter backup stories called Tops, Tales of the Police State, which are nasty, depressing little vignettes about everyday life in the police state. But I do intend to make everything self-contained stories. The second issue and the third issue will have stories that are loose, very loose, loosely connected to each other. You don't have to read all of them. You can read any of them in any order. There'll be a reference, when something took place in a previous story, but they're very loosely connected. They take place chronologically, but all self-contained stories. I don't really have any plans right now to do anything that would have to be more than one issue. I think since these are eventually going to be collected in trade paperback form, maybe there could be a rather long story that's only in a trade paperback. That's a possibility. So it could be long, but it won't be continued or episodic. My publisher is Marcosia. They're based in the UK. The digital is available right now on Comixology for $2.99. So you can buy that real cheap and see if you want to jump in and get the print.
okay, so you have plans for like a second one and a third one already?
The second one is just about finished. The lead story, which is 34 pages, also by the same artist, Paulo Perez, that's completely done except for the lettering. Paulo has just started drawing the lead story for the third issue, and I've just started writing the lead story for the fourth issue. I don't know how quickly each issue will come out. That is not so much a factor of my time. That's a financial factor. They'll come out as fast as they can be financed by hook or by crook, whether I'm dumping my own money in or people are contributing or simply buying the comic, whatever. So that's how fast they'll come out. I could probably do them. I could probably do 4 of them a year if it were financially feasible. I don't know when the second one will come out. It could come out 6 months, potentially, because it's almost done.
Wow. Oh, looks like you're already ahead of the game.
Yeah, a little bit. I had a modest goal here of $500. I'm a little bit ahead of that with 24 days, a little bit more than halfway through the campaign. And if I get to 1,000, I can actually pay to print it. How about that?
Nice.
And then instead of dipping into my own funds to print it.
Yeah, you're trying to do an investment here. Gotta get them funds. I usually try to do a smaller goal with my own campaigns, just because it's easier to reach, and usually I just want to get things out there.
Well, part of the reason for the 500 was that if you can have any goal you want on Indiegogo, and this is a flexible goal. So even if I only got to 300 or whatever, you can collect that and fulfill the backers. But if you get to 500, a minimum, then you can go in demand. You can become a store on Indiegogo, and I really wanted that option. So now I have that option. I don't know what I'm going to do with that option. I think the offerings will be different than what is in the campaign, but I definitely wanted the store option.
Right. So let's see. This is gonna be in newsprint?
Newsprint, yes. Kind of like the vinyl of comics.
Oh yeah. Are you a particular fan of newsprint? Because I know some people are diehard newsprint fans.
Yeah, I am. Although if comics are printed correctly on normal paper, that's okay. I generally prefer matte rather than glossy stock. I like if it's going to be white paper, not newsprint. I don't like it to be glossy. Usually, there are exceptions. The 2 other projects that I did with Marcosia, I insisted on non-glossy paper for the trade paperbacks, and there was a little bit of pushback. Harry fought me a little bit on it, but eventually he relented, and I think the books are greatly enhanced by the non-glossy paper. I don't know if I had the option of doing a whole graphic novel or collection on newsprint. I'm not sure I would do that, but definitely on flat, not shiny paper.
Right. Some people don't like the shine just because they get glare while they're reading.
Yeah, and depending on how it's colored, the glossy paper can work with comics if it's depending on how it's colored, but 9 times out of 10, maybe 99 out of 100, I'll take the non-glossy paper.
Right. I don't mind either way, but I see other people's opinion on that. What would you say is your inspiration for this one?
I like heist stories. I like crime stories, heist stories, caper stories, and as opposed to mystery stories, you don't know who did it. You have to try to figure out who did it. Crime stories, you know who did it. It's a question of whether they're going to get caught. And one of my problems with mysteries is if I don't figure out who did it, I feel like I'm stupid. But if I do figure out who did it, I feel like maybe the story wasn't good enough. So it's a lose-lose situation whether I figure it out or not.
Well, also sometimes you get those mystery stories where there's some ridiculous, some ridiculousness that you could have never predicted.
Yeah, my wife and I are watching Death in Paradise. It's a British series. I think it's been running about 8 seasons. We're still in the first season, and it's about a very stuffy British cop who's sent to the Caribbean, and that's where he's going to be a cop. So it's a fish out of water type of thing. And he pulls these solutions out of his you-know-what in the last 5 minutes of each episode. And you're like, well, I couldn't have figured that out. I guess the clues were in front of me, but usually we look at each other and we go, there's no way to there was no way to figure that out, because all of a sudden you see this light bulb go off over his head, not literally, but, and you realize he's onto something. And then when he tells you what it was and how he figured it out, and his colleagues are brought into the picture, he's like, okay, well, we didn't see any of that. We did not see any of those clues. He figured it out based on things we saw, plus a lot of things we didn't see. So it's a good thing the show is so entertaining due to the setting and the characterizations and the and you know, the some of the mystery stuff that you can figure out. But it's a little bit frustrating when you're not even given the clues, so you can't figure it out.
Right. We got a super chat from Maverick Christian asking, was Lupin an influence? I don't know about that.
Somebody mentioned that in another stream somewhere, and I looked it up, and so the answer is no. But now I know what that is.
Yeah, right. Well, so I guess you can. So, did you know these artists ahead of time, or did you seek them out?
Paulo Perez, the main artist, I sought out. I actually Googled animated style comics, and I found his website, and I liked the samples, and I saw that quite a few of his samples were in this style. I contacted him. He was available, and been working with him for a couple of years now, and completely happy with what he's doing. He's penciling, inking, and coloring. And actually, every artist I have in this book is doing their own pencils, own inks, and colors. So I think I've got 5 different artists. So I could have been working with 15 if they didn't all do everything.
Right. Yeah, that's a lot of work to do all in one, but I can kind of see it when it comes to these types of styles, a little bit more cartoonish. It gets a little bit easier as opposed to something super, super detailed.
Yeah, and I thought it would be easier to find more people to do it this way, and it would be faster and therefore cheaper. And I said that on a stream about 2 months ago, and somebody said, "Oh no, this takes as long to do. This kind of thing takes as long to do as that, you know, really fussy art with a million lines, cross hatching, and everything." And I said, I didn't argue with the guy. I went, okay, fine. And I've since mentioned that to a number of people, and they've all said, no, that's completely wrong. It obviously takes less time to do this than a million lines. It's simply how many lines you got to put down on the paper. But I think what he's doing here is very effective, and the storytelling is very clear. He always picks a great angle. I very, very rarely ask for any kind of revisions from Paulo. Marco Perugini, who did the video, he put the video together with Paulo's art. He actually reached out to me. He's an Italian artist. Paulo's in Brazil. And Marco reached out to me, and he's done a bunch of short stories for me and put that video together. But the other artists who did smaller pieces and posters and things like that in the book, they're all people I reached out to.
Okay. Yeah, I always like keep tabs on artists who in the future I want to work with when it comes to.
Well,
like,
it's funny you should say that, because I thought when I rolled Paulo out, you know, he would be snapped up and say I found assignments that are bigger and better. Goodbye. And I don't know if he's getting other work based on this, but he's stuck with me, which is very nice. Also, if you want to look at the perks here, they're very, very minimal. There's no alternate cover, no variant covers, although there is an alternate cover inside the comic that I didn't use, but it's not on the cover. And there's the comic by itself, signed by me, newsprint. There's the comic with original art by Paulo, and there's the comic with the Dami propaganda poster signed by Matt Chick, and then there's the comic with both of those things, and that's it. That's the whole thing.
Nice.
I was on a stream with a guy named Phil Russert, and he's an art agent, and he's doing his own comic, and he has 19 variant covers on his comic.
Oh my goodness.
I just can't administrate, manage, and keep track of something like that, or pay for it. So I decided to run in the opposite direction of the absolute minimum that you could have had less than this, really. But I figured this is as minimal as I wanted to go.
Yeah, I've never been a huge fan of variant covers. The way I see it is you should just like make a good cover the first time.
Well, yeah, and if you
Like
want to have
the cover
poster
good.
pages, if you want to have other art that's poster pages inside, that's fine. I have no problem with that. Pin-up pages, they used to be called, but if you have alternative covers that are inside, that's no problem. But I don't want to buy 5 comics to get all that art. I want it all in one comic.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, it also makes it like harder on the person printing it to have so many.
Now I see I just got a backer, and I'm going to assume it's because of this stream. It's possible that it's just a coincidence, but
Yeah, we can get the.
I
the
want to
refresh.
thank. Yeah, let's see. I won't read the name out loud, but
There you
let's see
go.
if I can find that and see if it's somebody that I already know. I actually like it when it shows up, and when a new backer shows up and I don't know who they are.
Right. Because
If it's a
then you're like,
friend, I'm
ooh.
like, okay, well, yeah, I expected you, but yeah, I don't know who this person is, and so that's good, and you know who you are if you're watching. So I want to thank you if you're the person who did that.
Yeah, it's always exciting to reach new people rather than just friends and family.
And it's tough. It's tough to build an audience. I know you've had a couple of campaigns yourself, at least 2, right?
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, the second one was very successful, and the first one not so much. Correct?
Well, the first one I redid, and
Okay.
that was successful the second time around.
All right. Yep.
And then the newer one is the kids comic I just did.
Okay.
So that one, that one did fine.
Yeah, and I think that it's there's so much you have to do even before you launch, and by that I don't simply mean creating the material. It's getting people ready for it. I was originally going to launch right after Labor Day, and I just decided I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I don't have enough eyes on me yet, and then it got near Thanksgiving and Christmas. I was like, okay, well, I can't launch then. And so I ended up just kicking the can down the road further and further, and decided, okay, I've got this huge window of 60 days starting at the beginning of May where I can actually pay attention to this campaign and promote it and do it right and be available in a way that I really wasn't before and probably won't be right after. So I decided I better jump on this window while it's open.
Right. A lot of preparation that needs to be done. You basically need to clear your schedule for marketing it.
Strategy, as the Three Stooges used to say.
Right. And with me, I think I'm pretty bad at promoting, but I try to get better as time goes on.
I'm sorry, you're pretty what at promoting?
Bad at promoting my own stuff.
I don't think so at all. The fact that I've been watching your videos as long as I have, and I'm not, and let me see how I can put this correctly. The subject matter is often only marginally interesting to me. but I like the execution. I like the way you present the material and the humor. So the fact that you've got somebody whose time, everybody's time is limited, and I watch a lot of videos and I watch a lot of people's YouTube channels and whatever they're doing on Facebook. The fact that I'm paying that much attention should be a testament to the entertainment value.
Well, thank you. I mean, you have to try to be entertaining on here. But yeah, a lot of the time when I'm like running a campaign, sometimes in videos I'll forget to even mention it, and they always say you got to mention it every single video. I always put it at the end instead of the beginning, and people say, no, that's bad.
Well, this is about the 20th stream I've done during the campaign, and if you I'm going to tilt the camera a little bit, or tilt the camera a little bit so you can see that poster. Yeah. And get a little closer here. Okay, so I'm waiting for somebody, when my picture comes up, when the camera shows me, I'm waiting for somebody to say, so what is it you're promoting again? Because I just figure, if you're going to do this, do it. Because I look at certain streams and I see people and they're supposedly promoting something, but I don't know what the heck they're promoting, because they're talking about movies, they're talking about food, and we've gotten off topic and talked about a couple things that have nothing to do with my campaign. But if anybody's looking at the screen and they see this guy with this silly hat and this poster behind him, well, they have no doubt what it is I'm promoting, regardless of whether I'm talking about the fast food I ate last night. So you've got to be very, very conscious of promoting. And I see people who are very shy and reticent on some streams they're reticent about talking about their campaign. Well, then why have a campaign?
Right. People are way too shy, way too embarrassed.
Never been a problem for me.
That's good. Confidence is key for a lot of success stories.
Well, it might be bravado. I don't know. I don't know about confidence. Let's see, what else can we say? I do have some more talking points here while we have the time. Can I read the Rammur manifesto?
Sure, go ahead.
This might scare some people away, but I definitely want people to know what they're getting into. If you think testosterone is a kind of poison, if you think macho is a dirty word, then Rammur is not for you. But if you want stories that make your pulse race, stories that grip and delight you, stories with beginnings, middles, and endings, self-contained stories that give you the fix you need, stories told visually the way the gods of comics intended, stories about a criminal so clever the police state will never nail him, a thief so cold he'll freeze your blood, then, you guessed it, you want Rammur. Rammur, no man can stop him. Rammur, no woman can resist him. Rammur, no prize can daunt him. If that attracts you, then you're in. And if that repels you, then you don't need to get involved. But I need to lay it right out there and let people know what it's about. And on the one hand, I think it's pretty unique. On the other hand, maybe that's a problem, because most people are able to say, well, my story is sort of a combination of this and that, and it's got this and it's got that, and it's got all these different things that people can relate to because they've seen it at least a few times before. I don't think this is like that, other than the fact that it's a crime story. There's nothing unique about that. I did have somebody in one stream say, well, you're not telling us what the story actually is about. And when you did your review, you did a little bit of that. You went into it, but I do have a capsule summary of the story, which is in the campaign and also in the digital if you go to Comixology. So I'll just take a minute to read that.
Sure.
A museum heist gone wrong. 2 thieves dead. Rammur's fusion gear damaged. The target of the break-in, a banned object of art, destroyed. But that's just the beginning of Rammur's problems, because one of his colleagues is a police informant. Can Rammur figure out who's tipping off the cops before he finds himself in a global Freedom Authority labor camp? So that's a tease and a summary of the first story. And getting back to the idea of mysteries, yeah, I think you're probably going to be able to figure out pretty easily who did what when you only have three characters in the story.
Right, and one of them being
It's
the
not
main
too hard
character.
to figure. Yeah, it's not too hard to figure out who's the rat.
Right, right. So I don't know. Anything else you wanted to add, or should we?
Well, let's see. I think we've covered just about all of it. I do want to thank my publisher, Harry Marcos at Marcosia, for letting me do a print version of the floppy, because he doesn't do print floppies. He only does digital. Then he collects them, and an eventual collection will be in print and digital on Amazon. But I'm going to make sure that, let's say it's 3 issues collected, I'm going to make sure there are things in each individual issue that do not make it to the graphic novel. So you got to have it all. And the graphic novel will also include some stuff that won't be in any of the issues. So you're going to have everything, but hopefully we'll have some fans that won't have a problem with that. I should also mention the name Rammur is based on the ram scoop on his chest. This draws hydrogen atoms out of the atmosphere, and they're sucked into his compact fusion reactor strapped to his back. And that's what powers his wrist blasters and his leg jets. Some people have said a compact fusion reactor. Is that realistic? Is that plausible? Well, no, it's not plausible. But this is comics where we've got a guy who was bitten by a radioactive spider, and that's how he got his powers. So I figured this is no more ridiculous than that, probably actually a little less ridiculous than that.
Right, well, it doesn't have to be realistic. all futuristic technology is usually like explained in a silly way because they don't actually know how to make it work. Otherwise, we'd have it.
And do I have time to tell you why it's not spelled ER?
Sure.
I wanted the name of the character to be a web address, and the character originally was named Rammur, ER. But I looked that up, and there's a company in Finland that produces heavy equipment for road construction, and Rammur is the name of one of their products, so they had that. Then I thought, how about RAMMAR? That would be pronounced pretty much the same way. So I looked that up, went to that web address, and that's a chain of grocery stores in Turkey. So that was out, and then I thought, okay, I got maybe one more chance here. I'm almost out of vowels. RAMMUR, that was available, so I grabbed it, and I think that worked out okay because it does take place in the future, and it's a kind of strange name. Most people seem to get it pronounced properly, but I figured that would work. An easier name to trademark, certainly. I did find out subsequently that it is an actual name of people in India. It's a name. It's an actual name. And I didn't know that when I created it. So that's why the Facebook page for Rammur is called Rammur and Tops Tales of the Police State. Because if you just look up Rammur, there's actually people on Facebook with that name.
Huh. Yeah, I guess there are a lot of words that turn out to be names once you search it. But definitely web addresses are going to get harder and harder to come up with the original ones when they're all taken.
Well, now that I know it's a real name, it could have just as easily been taken by somebody with that name. And I think it's a first name, but there's no reason you can't take that as a web address. That could have been taken for that reason. But it was available, so I grabbed it.
Right. Right. Good thing.
The price includes shipping in the USA. You probably know what it costs to ship things overseas.
Oh, yeah.
It's absolutely ridiculous. So anybody overseas or even in Canada, the shipping is not going to be included in the cost.
I did ship one book once to Germany. It was like $63 or something.
How heavy was this book?
Not heavy.
Just a normal size a
It was a
paperback?
floppy book.
A floppy.
Yeah,
$63?
it was awful.
How long did it take to get there?
I'm not sure.
That's just well, it's funny because originally I thought, well, maybe I should just up the price a little bit and include shipping overseas, blah blah blah. And then I decided, I started doing a little bit of homework, and you're confirming my choice. That's insane.
Yeah, well, part of the problem is you can't really fully predict how much it's going to cost because, some people in some countries, they live in normal neighborhoods, but some people are on like freaking mountains.
Yeah, you're
in the
right. You might you
wilderness
might
or
have been you might
something.
have been shipping to the Black Forest or something like
Yeah,
that.
somewhere where it's like really hard to ship to, and all of a sudden the price jumps up a million.
Did the customer pay for that?
Yeah.
Wow. That's a dedicated fan.
Yeah, right.
Well,
Really
I
easy.
think boy, I think we've really covered everything, which is pretty amazing. Usually, even in this relatively short period of time, usually I'm only about halfway through my spiel, but we got through it. And if you have any other questions for me,
Um,
certainly willing to reveal.
yeah, maybe we can get into your comic history so people know your background.
Yeah, 35 years. Started with Marvel, doing Conan and some adventure stories and some humor stories. And my first editor was Larry Hama, who's pretty well known in the industry. Did a lot of G.I. Joe comics. And got out in around 94 when the market collapsed, and
Mm.
didn't know the market was collapsing at the time, just realized that none of my calls were being returned, and figured out what happened in 94. I think the market lost half its value, and then in 95 another half, and several thousand comic book stores closed. Excuse me. And I decided if I came back, I would be more of a packager, a producer, somebody who was the boss of the project. And that worked out for the most part. I do still hire myself out for work for hire, but I try to be the project manager on most of what I do. I did the first graphic novel based on Louis L'Amour, the Western writer. That was for Bantam Books. And right now I'm doing three Edgar Rice Burroughs webcomics. Unfortunately, by the time I got there, Tarzan and John Carter were taken. But Edgar Rice Burroughs was kind of like the Stephen King of the 1920s, and he wrote in a lot of different genres and sold a lot of books. And I'm doing these murder mysteries and melodramas and soap opera type stuff before the Edgar Rice Burroughs webcomic page. And that pretty much brings us up to date. Marcosi is my publisher. This is the third project I've done with them. I did an illustrated autobiography, not of me, but a guy out in Cincinnati who had a very rare epileptic disease where he had auditory and visual hallucinations.
Oh, wow.
For 5 years, when he was 11 to 16. It didn't tell anybody, and he thought he was possessed by the devil. And I found his autobiography on Amazon. I approached him about doing a graphic novel, and we did it. And Marcosi published it. It's called Running from the Devil, Diary of a Boy Possessed. And so that was nonfiction. And then the next book, which I know you're aware of, was Danny and Harry, Private Detectives. And that was a funny animal cartoon noir stories with Walter Brogan. And this is my third with Marcosia. And I saw an interview recently with Harry Marcos, and he said that he gets 100 submissions a month, and he picks one. So I'm 3 for 3 with Harry.
That's great.
So that means I'm 3 out of 300. which is very, very gratifying. And I feel like I kind of have a standing invitation with Harry, but I think I'll be running with Rammur for a while. So I won't push it to see if I go 4 for 4.
Right. Well, it seems like you've accomplished your goal. Hopefully we can get you further up there.
Can you play the video?
Sure. Yeah. I don't know if the sound will come through very well.
It'll be loud.
Very nice.
Yeah, not a big heavy metal fan, but I thought that music worked. I found it on one of these sites where you can buy the rights to use something for video. It's called Take Me Alive, which I think is appropriate, by Deaf Election. And they do heavy metal stuff that you can rent for a price on their website. Very happy with the video. Marco Perugini, the Italian artist, put it together using Paulo's artwork. And
yeah,
very happy with that.
Yeah. I like it when people put together like more animated trailers of the comic. I try to do some animated trailers myself. One of them for the newest campaign just like didn't finish in time, so I just went along with the campaign anyway. It's one of those things where I was more so unprepared.
Yeah, I knew I had to have a video. I let's put it this way. I think you have to have a video. I don't know that you have to have a video. I think you have to have a video. And a lot of people are talking about their own project and have themselves on camera. And I just decided, I think I saw something Marco put together for someone else. And I decided, okay, that kind of thing would look pretty good. And I think he really knocked it out of the park, to use that cliche. I really like what he did. And no matter how many times I see it, I don't get sick of it.
Oh, we got a question for you.
All right.
Charles, how did you get the newsprint? Did you use Alterna? Which printer are you using?
Okay, good question. I have been in touch with Alterna, and I don't know if I'm going to use them. I have found a couple of other potential sources for it. I haven't printed yet, so I haven't committed to a publisher. The interesting thing that I'm finding out, though, is it's not cheaper.
Oh.
It can be, depending on where you go and how many you print and many other complicated factors. But if you think you're going to get off cheap because you're doing newsprint, don't do it. Don't do it because you want to go cheap. Do it because you want newsprint. It's not going to be cheaper necessarily.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I know this one guy who sent me his comic, like the pages were really, it was a floppy and the pages were really thick, and I was like, man, this is kind of weird for a comic to have the pages so thick. And apparently whoever he was printing with said it was just as cheap to do like cardstock paper.
Yeah.
So we just did that.
Which is, I don't really want to read a cardstock comic.
Yeah. It didn't feel right.
Yeah. But, I'm very, very picky about how a comic looks and feels and even smells. And another thing I'm a real fuss budget, to use an old-fashioned term, is with the lettering. And I've seen many comics that have great art, great story, great penciling, inking, coloring, and everything. And then they spend all that time and money, and then they cheap out on the lettering. And it just bothers me. There's a local artist. I'm based in upstate New York. There's a local artist whose work is fantastic, and he posted some pages online that he was going to publish. And he said, oh, I did the lettering myself because I decided I wanted to do everything myself, the penciling, the inking, and the lettering. It's like, okay, well, I would like to be able to fix the electricity in my house, but I don't know how. So I don't want to kill myself and burn my house down. I'm going to hire somebody. And could I learn, lettering? Probably, but why? It's not expensive to get professional lettering, and there are a lot of good people out there. And that I decided that's the way I was going to go. I do see more and more people seeking out professionals for lettering. It costs about $15 to $20 a page. So it's not free, but if you're hiring pencils, inkers, colorists, whatever, that's going to cost you a lot more than $20 a page.
Right. I'm also guilty of doing all the lettering myself, but I try to make it not ugly. I try.
It is a skill, and it's deceptively. It's trickier than it looks, because you think, well, wait a minute, I'm just putting letters on a page, and I'm not drawing the letters the way people used to. It's all done by computer. So how hard can it be? It's very hard. It's very hard to make the lettering not noticeable. If you're noticing the lettering, then something's wrong. Just like if you're reading a book and you're going, boy, I really love the typesetting on this book. Well, then there's probably a problem, because you shouldn't be noticing the typesetting. You should be reading the book.
Oh, and thank you for the $2 donation, Draw and Talk. Have a great weekend, Dan Fan. You rock.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
There you go. That's what happened. That's what happens when you have as many people following you as you do. You get them throwing money at you.
Got another question for you, Ed, from Donut Tree. Hey, Charles, being from upstate New York, is it true that steamed hams is a phrase people use to describe hamburgers?
Never heard that, but I will say that I'm actually from, I was born in New York City, and I grew up on Long Island, not in Long Island, the way some people say who don't know. It's on Long Island. And when I moved upstate, first time I was up here, I went to a McDonald's back when I still ate things like that, and opened up a hamburger. I bit into the hamburger, and I was like, it tastes very unusual. What? I opened it up, and not only was there ketchup, there was mustard. Now, I don't know about now, but they certainly didn't do that on Long Island. It may be one of the few places where they don't. They just put mustard. Ketchup. Nobody put mustard on their hamburgers. I've since grown to like it, but that was a big shock. But steamed hams, I think somebody is messing with us.
Yeah, I've also never heard that phrase before.
But I'm going to jot that down, look it up, and I will reach out to you later with what I have found. But
we'll dig deep.
Yeah. Oh yeah, steamed hams. Okay.
All right.
That's like hoagies and grinders and subs. There's all different names for that.
Right. And I guess different people have their own lingo, their own language of talking.
And also towns are also have weird pronunciations. There's a town near us. It's spelled Valatie. Valatie. That's pronounced Valatia.
Huh.
So when you blow into some town and you're trying to mingle among the locals and you say Valatie, they know you're not from around here. So you gotta be careful when you're. I live in a town called Wynenskill, and kill is Dutch word for creek. So there's a lot of kills, Fishkill, for instance, and Catskill, and Wynenskill. And somebody came into town who was trying to convince us that we needed to merge our school district with another inner city school district. Nobody wanted to have anything to do with that, but he couldn't pronounce the name of our town correctly. And he was trying to convince us to do something we didn't want to do. So, regional variations are very interesting. But like I said, steamed hams, I don't think so.
Not today.
No.
All right. So that is Rammur, guys. If you do want to back this, I have left the campaign link in the description below. So go ahead and click, read all about it, check out the pages. You know it. And I guess we'll wrap this up. Any closing remarks, Charles?
No, none at all. If you could hang out with me for a minute or two after we're done, that would be great. And I just want to thank whoever that backer was. I know who the backer was, but I'm not going to mention the name. And we'll be up there for 24 more days. And if you go to Comixology and you buy the digital for $2.99, then you'll have something very nice, and you'll hopefully want the print as well.
Hopefully. All right, so thank you all in the chat for joining us on this live stream, and we'll see you next time.
And thank you, Dan Fan, and everybody who watched.
Yep. And ending.